Godina 2024. biće izborna godina. Biraju Evropska unija, Amerika, Rusija i još oko 50-ak zemalja. Najveći test demokratije ikad. Prilika za reformatiranje globalnog poretka ili tek da se svet malo protrese, pa da se vidi šta je u situ ostalo, a šta propalo. Obično izborne godine ne donose promene. Obično. Ipak će ovako ili onako uticati i na prilike na brdovitom Zapadnom Balkanu. Ali kako? Saznajte u Slobodno Srpski. Moja današnja gošća je Viola von Kramon, izvestiteljka Evropskog parlamenta za Kosovo. Gospođo von Kramon, dobrodošli u Slobodno Srpski.
Thanks a lot for having me in your show.
Neću vas pitati da li je Kosovo na evropskom putu, pretpostavljam da ćete odgovoriti potvrdno, nego kojom brzinom se odvijaju evropske integracije Kosova? Sporo, baš kako treba ili brzo i odlučno?
Well, that's not an easy question, and it's also, which means it's not an easy answer to say it's quickly or it's slowly. I would say there's room for improvement. I would say sometimes it would be more helpful if you could be a bit more flexible, a bit more pragmatic, and if you had not the tit for tat in mind, but more the big picture where we are going. And the second point, which I think, and you mentioned that in your introduction, we are approaching an electoral year. Electoral year means many things might be postponed if they are not getting done in the first half of the year. Mm-hmm. And with the postponement of many smaller and bigger questions, we might come into a delay, which is rather difficult and rather dangerous for the entire region.
Da, a šta može, kažete, može i bolje i treba još dosta toga, šta zapravo može, odnosno šta mora bolje, odnosno šta je najveći izazov, da ne kažem problem Kosova na evropskom putu? Mi na Balkanu krivca uvek tražimo u nekom drugom. Nadam se ne i vi.
No, that's absolutely true. Well, I think that at least this German Franco-European proposal to come up with any kind of a treaty, any kind of an agreement was a good proposal. And I hoped that would be the basis for a swift implementation, and that also the annex allow each and every side to implement their parts as fast as they can, because I said there's quite an urgency because of the election in Washington and in Brussels. And so here I see not the will to implement, but rather the will to wait until the other had implemented the first steps. And I don't think this is very helpful.
Da, kad ste pomenuli tu hitnost, Kosovo je prošle godine apliciralo za članstvo u Savetu Evrope. Jel po vama ispunjava uslove da postane član i da li je realno da se to dogodi zapravo sad u prvih 4-5 meseci pre evropskih izbora, odnosno održavanja tih izbora?
Well, you know, there are certain principles in the Council of Europe. And what I have read from the legal analysis so far is that in theory, on paper, the legal framework is here. So it's not bad what the Constitution provides, but the implementation and the realization of the constitutional framework is lacking behind. So with the case of Dechany not being implemented for years now, and the non-political will of going ahead with this, and even confronting the members of the Council of Europe, telling them openly that this government will not do this, that does not make things easier for the members of the Council of Europe to move forward with the application. This is only one case, but it's not to be underestimated because freedom of religious and constitutional constitutional court rulings are being taken very seriously by the Council of Europe. And I think this is something which could be easily fixed if the government had a political will to finally come up with a proposal how to do this.
Jel to konkretno znači da Kosovo neće postati član Saveta Evrope ako ne sprovede odluku Ustavnog suda Kosova iz 2016. čini mi se i uknjiži zemlju u manastiru Visoki Dečani, 24 hektara?
Well, I'm not one of the rapporteurs, so don't take my words as this as a representative of the Council of Europe. But what I've heard and what I've read is that this is definitely one of the main obstacles, yes. And so if there is not, let's say, a step-by-step approach how to overcome this, it will be extremely difficult to move forward. And there's also no appetite. I mean, there are rules in the Council of Europe. And if you openly say, I will violate those rules, why should the members of this club take you?
Jasno, i članice Kvinte su upozoravali i prošle godine na to da je potrebno za dalji put ka evropskim integracijama da se konkretno i ova odluka sprovede, ali šta vi generalno mislite o toj odluci? I evo, vi dolazite iz Nemačke, je li za vas moguće tako nešto, recimo da su u Nemačkoj Ustavni sud donese neku odluku, a da neka opština tamo to ne sprovede?
No, absolutely not. This is the highest legislative institution, and we are just struggling a lot with the last rulings of our constitutional court. Actually, our coalition in Berlin is now in a deep crisis because of some of the constitutional court rulings. And of course, we have to follow them.
Oko onih 60 milijardi sad.
Exactly. And so you see, that is sometimes annoying, and it is not in the interest of the politicians to ignore those rulings. Because if you, on one hand, say you respect rule of law and you respect democratic standards, but then wait for years, for decades to implement them, what kind of rule of law standards is this? This is far away from how you portray yourself. So yes, in Germany it's difficult and here it's difficult, but nevertheless you have to do it.
Da, rekli ste i da je normalizacija odnosa svakako na evropskom putu i u Prištini i u Beogradu, odnosno i za Kosovo i za Srbiju. Za premijera Kurtija to nije, on je u više predizbornih kampanja rekao da to nije bilo prioritetno pitanje, nego da mu je ta normalizacija odnosa sa Srbijom na nekom 7., 8. mestu. Za Beograd je ta normalizacija ipak pitanje svih evropskih pitanja, evo i sad za ovu novu buduću vladu tako najavljuju. Jel bi i za Kosovo zapravo trebalo da bude to pitanje svih pitanja?
No. Well, to be honest, I mean, if you follow the statements of Prime Minister Kurti, he has changed quite a lot from not making this as a priority to making this as a priority. Whether these words will follow his deeds and his acts, that is another question. But I think he has spent quite a lot of time on the dialogue. He has spent quite a lot of time in meeting international partners, going to different countries, participating in international meetings, and making sure that Kosovo is very active in the dialogue. I would never say that he tried to circumvent this, or he tried to give other sectors or other fields of politics more priority than the dialogue. My question is more, what values have the words if we do not see the respective action to this? That is more my question than the words and the statements.
Da, zbog tog, da kažem, nepoštovanja reči možda date negde, kažete da je premijer Kurti proveo i dosta vremena u dijalogu i zbog te zapravo neusklađenosti u pogledu načina na rešavanja krize, pre svega na severu Kosova, protiv vlade u Prištini. Evropska unija je uvela sankcije, odnosno ovde se to zovu mere, ali kako god da se zovu imaju svakako taj negativan i ekonomski i politički uticaj za Kosovo. Šta mislite vi o tim merama i kada će i da li će biti uskoro ukinute?
No. Well, these are not sanctions because there's no sanction regime behind that. There was not a sanction mechanism as we have this, for example, with Russia or in the past with Iran and other countries. So that is different to the situation here. And yes, compared with, let's say, the handling of Belgrade, it appears very unfair, very unjustified to many people here. I think at that moment, at the end of May, when things escalated, all the European partners were desperate to have anything which shows Kosovo you can't handle the situation as you had handled that. And you have to keep your promises. And what I understand from those people who were very closely involved, there was a huge disappointment of how the Prime Minister, how the government handled the crisis at the end of May. And that was not caused by external forces, but it was mainly caused by domestic mismanagement. And to count...
Govorite o opštinama u koje je upala policija u ove tri opštine.
Exactly. The armed vehicles in front of the municipality buildings, the residence buildings, schools, kindergartens. So as I have been there, I've been speaking to people, and I was really very much puzzled and irritated by those hard measures coming.
Ali tamo i dalje imamo KFOR koji čuva te opštine. Je li vlada Kosova do sada naučila nešto iz tih mera Evropske unije? Jer one se svakako uvode radi nekih pozitivnih promjena.
Well, they are partly withdrawn, I have heard. In some of the cases, they are inside. Of course, it would have been better if we could have seen a withdrawal of the mayors. And I know from some of the mayors, they would be even ready to withdraw immediately to come up with new elections. So I hope that we see new elections, we see more legitimate elected mayors, but this is also up to now the majority of the people collecting for signatures, and hopefully then we see a more democratic process. So overall, that is a very unfortunate situation. You have asked me whether these measures will be lifted. I can't tell you. I know that with a comparison then of the situation in Serbia, everything is not really balanced. And I can tell you, everyone who comes now to Kosovo thinks this should be lifted very soon. How the procedure is and whether all the conditions are being met so far, which were agreed in Bratislava, I can't tell you. But what I've heard, we're very close, and hopefully those measures will be lifted because Kosovo needs the money, and we would like to see that Kosovo participated in the development, in the economical development, what the European Union had provided to the 6 Balkan states.
Da, kad ste pomenuli ste i Beograd, vi ste posle događaja u Banjskoj najavljivali da se priprema paket mera i za Srbiju ako ne sarađuje u istrazi i obezbedi odgovarajuću istragu u vezi sa događajem u Banjskoj. Šta bi s tim? Jel su i dalje te mere pripremljene, odnosno jel se i dalje pripremaju ili se odustalo od toga?
No, we did not give up. First of all, we want to see a report, what was actually happening. We partly got the report in a camera meeting, in a closed meeting in Brussels. I don't think that was sufficient. I think we need a broader information, what actually was going on, who was leading this attack, who was actually initiating to bring this massive weapons into the north of Kosovo, what was the intention to do with this, and so on. So we would like to see who's actually behind that. But what we saw and what I think was be perceived as a positive signal by many people in Brussels is, for example, the application for Kosovo passports going on. We could settle the question of the license plate. So there are little, let's say, positive signals that at least one side is not always blocking, is not always postponing. Maybe that is not enough, at least it's not enough from my perspective, but it is not becoming worse. So here we can be cautiously optimistic.
Da, pomenuste pasoše, ipak sa zapada stižu i šargarepe, da tako kažem. Evo, od 1. januara i građani Kosova koji imaju kosovski pasoš mogu da putuju u zemlje Šengena bez viza. To je bio san za mnoge koji se ostvario. Je li vlada Kosova po vama, odnosno Kosovo, zaslužilo tu viznu liberalizaciju ili je to neki avans za možda neke buduće ustupke ili jednostavno možda poklon prijatelja od zapada?
No. Kosovo deserves that, and already for quite some time. And I was repeatedly lobbying for this visa liberalization. There was no reason to discriminate poor people in Kosovo here. I mean, the citizens have not done anything wrong. And compared to the situation in Albania, Serbia, Montenegro, why were the citizens of Kosovo not allowed to travel with their passports, with their documents? So I think the technical criteria were fulfilled in 16, 17, 18, so the governments there had done everything right, and then it was a political decision, a political will not to give the green light, and that was very unfortunate, very sad actually.
Da, ali bilo je, godinama je uslov bio odlučna borba protiv organizovanog kriminala, korupcije, odnosno poboljšanje vladavine prava. Ili mislite da je sad to na nekom dobrom nivou, odnosno da se to poboljšalo? To je bio uslov za viznu liberalizaciju godinama. Jedan od uslova zapravo.
I know that especially the German Minister for Interior Affairs was very keen to see the necessity and the necessary steps to be taken to fight organized crime and corruption. And I think they have set up an internal working group. They came up with specialists on the ground. They came up with people from those agencies from Germany to really check. And after they were convinced, they were also lobbying within the European Council to finally give green light to make sure that visa liberalization comes into force. So I would say that Kosovo has delivered and Kosovo has reformed on this particular issue. But whether this is, I mean, enough in an overall sense, we need to see. I mean, the visa lib has started for a couple of days now, and hopefully everything goes well.
Da, ali nije za sve. Srbi, recimo, koji imaju pasoše koje izdaje Beograd preko koordinacione uprave, kako se to zove, su jedini na Zapadnom Balkanu koji ne mogu da putuju sa tim pasošima bez vize. Bilo je reči da će se i ti pasoši priznati, međutim, evo, od 1. januara se to nije dogodilo. Hoće li?
Well, I mean, first of all, I know very many Serbian, Kosovo citizens with a Serbian background who have a Kosovo passport and they can travel freely. So that is open to each and everyone. Everyone can apply and should apply. And second of all, many of those have two passports and still have a residence in Serbia. And so they have a Serbian plus a Kosovo passport. They are all free to do so. Many of them managed. And I know from the Commission that they actually will go for an extension of these temporary passports from Serbia to allow them as well to travel to the European Union, to the Schengen zone. To be honest, it is in our interest to give the right to each and everyone, no matter which passport they have. So I think this discriminatory factor should not be applied. But as I said, it's obviously also possible for many of the Serbian non-majority people to travel already now because they have applied for a Kosovo passport or they still have the Serbian passport with their Serbian residence.
Jasno, ali da li će konkretno ovaj pasoš koji izdaje Srbije, ta koordinaciona uprava, biti isto u tom viznom režimu? Odnosno bezviznom?
I know there is a procedure behind that, but I also know that the Commission is going to extend this coordination body and this temporary permission. So what we have heard from the representative of the Commission, this will be allowed for each and every citizen here.
Dobro. Dobro, nećemo više o iznoj liberalizaciji. Sjedinjene Američke Države su prihvatile zahtev Kosova za kupovinu protiv tenkovskih projektila Javelin. S druge strane, predsjednik Srbije je, Aleksandar Vučić, je razočaran tom odlukom. Kako vi ocenjujete kupovinu tog oružja u vrednosti od $75 miliona? Je li nama na Kosovu baš to treba ili smo te pare mogli da uložimo u nešto bolje možda? I sami malo pre rekoste da nama ovdje na Kosovu treba para.
Well, I don't know. It's a sovereign decision of the government of Kosovo, and it's not up to Aleksandar Vučić to comment on the decisions of this government. So I would be very much relaxed on this is also a role game or a game of, yes, he has to comment on that, but why? I mean, he has, I think, compared to Kosovo, quite a huge sector of military industry. So I mean, Kosovo is free to buy any weapons they would like to have for their own protection. I don't think there's a need to comment from me. I don't have any.
Da, ali Kosovo je i siromašno. Svaki četvrti stanovnik živi sa 2 evra dnevno. A sad se, eto, kad smo kod tih vojnih pitanja, najavljuje i u Prištini i mogućnost uvođenja redovnog služenja vojnog roka na Kosovu. I to košta. Kako gledate na to? Za šta se to Kosovo sprema?
No, I mean, that's a question in each and every country where the government thinks that they have to invest into military equipment, into protection, into security. I can tell you, even in Germany, we have a very lively debate on whether military budget needs to be increased or not, and to which extent, and whether this is necessary to invest into maritime and air defense and whatsoever. So I think this is normal for a democratic country, and it's up to the citizens then either to protest, to make, or the opposition to make counter proposals. I think this is how democracy works. If people think this is the wrong decision, they should let this government know. And if they are fine with this, yes, we need to see what to do with the rest of the budget. But you are right. I mean, some are not agreeing with this decision, and some think that is the right. So this is how democracy works.
Dobro, vratimo se. Pomenuo sam ja u najavi da je ovo svetska izborna godina u koju Kosovo ulazi, čini mi se, sa specifičnom situacijom, pre svega u opštinama na severu Kosova gde žive Srbi uglavnom. Kako vi vidite odnosno lično ocenjujete sada stanje na severu i šta očekujete da će se desiti u ovoj godini? Znamo šta se sve događalo. Srbi su napustili institucije, između ostalog i zbog toga što nije formirana zajednica srpskih opština, održani izbori, znamo koliko je ljudi izašlo, ko sada vrši vlast, albanski gradonačelnici. Jel očekujete u skorije vreme da se održe izbori, recimo, tamo u te 4 opštine?
Well, this is a very multi-layer question with a lot of open, how to say, open questions. I would put it that way. First of all, this government needs to show that they're really interested in reaching out to the Serbs, no matter whether they live in the north or in the south or somewhere else. I think it is in our interest to make sure we have and we stay with a multi-ethnic society. And each and every citizen has the right, has the same right, the equal right for everything, on languages, on education, on health, on passports, and so on. So that is, for me, one principle. And then we need to see that also in the north, the people who live there make sure that the politicians work on their behalf, they work on their interests. So what we have seen in the past was, of course, sometimes difficult. You had one Srpska lista, but not everyone agreed with this. So what we need here is also more diversity. We need more offers from citizens to become politicians. We need more parties. We need more pluralism here, so that people also can decide if one party like Srpska lista decide to withdraw from the institution, but others maybe don't agree with this, that you have also a competition amongst these politicians here. And here I see definitely a bit of a progress. I see some people showing up and saying, hey, this is our future, this is our country, we take care of that, and we would like to take over responsibility. I offer you my my work, my competence, my knowledge, and this I would like to see. Yes, I very much regret how some people in Pristina treat people in the north, but also from the north, you need to be more self-confident. You need to make sure that your voices are heard. You need to be more present here in Pristina and in other places. And what we need to accomplish is this generation who lived in Yugoslavia is dying out. And some people in Pristina, of course, don't speak Serbian anymore, and many people from the Serbian non-majority groups don't speak Albanian. So we need to make sure that there is still something which keeps you together, keeps the country together. And there I'm very much worried, because each and every part works very much on this nationalistic driven principle, and this is not enough to keep the country together.
Da, zapravo ta kriza na severu je kulminirala i tim oružanim sukobom u Banjskoj septembra prošle godine i na neki način je bacila u drugi plan francusko-nemački, odnosno evropski predlog o normalizaciji odnosa Prištine i Beograda i ovaj plan o realizaciji koji je dogoveren u Ohridu. Kada pričaju o tome i Kurti i Vučić, čini mi se da ih je teško razumeti, ne znam, Vučića oko tog međunarodnog priznanja Kosova i Kurtija oko zajednice srpskih opština. Pa nam vi objasnite, da li je zapravo po vama taj Briselski sporazum od 27. marta i taj ohridski plan o implementaciji prihvaćen od strane Beograda i Prištine u celosti ili delimično zapravo? Jer jedna i druga strana se ne drže zapravo toga.
Well, absolutely right. And that is the bit of a problem. While both using this very selectively, saying, well, this part is good for me, I can sign this. The other one says, I will sign everything, but I would like to see Serbia, Belgrade to come up first and to be as committed as everyone. I would say if everyone start with his part and his responsibility, we can move forward much faster. No matter whether Serbia signs or no matter whether Kosovo comes up with this ASM, everyone can already start with implementing his part of the agreement. This is in the interest of the people. This is in the interest of the region. And of course, it's also in the interest of stability of the European continent. So, I mean, I have mentioned that several times. It's very easy to say we don't want the ASM. It's very easy for Vučić to say, well, I will never ever accept any kind of independence or recognition of Kosovo. Fine, but this will not lead us anywhere. And Vučić knows without a proper agreement, there is no chance for his citizens to participate in the Euro integration. And for Kosovo, it's the same. So if both say, I wait for the others to start, we will not see any progress.
U tim predlozima, odnosno sporazumima ne postoje rokovi.
That is a problem, absolutely. And I also criticize the interlocutors, our special envoy Lajčák and also Borrell, that they accepted the non-signature of Vučić at the Ohrid meeting last year. I think it was in February. I think that was a major mistake to let him go without signing this, because that makes it very easy now for Pristina to blame us in the European Union and also Belgrade for not moving forward. But in the end, if everyone blames only the others, we will harm ourselves. Yeah? And yes, it's very heroic to be so resistant, but I mean, come on, where does it lead to? It doesn't lead us anywhere. Huh?
Dobro, pomenu ste Lajčaka i Borelja da ste ih kritikovali zbog toga. Pre nego što odemo do naših građana i vas da pitam kako ste zapravo zadovoljni odnosom rukovodstva Evropske unije prema prilikama na Zapadnom Balkanu u prethodnom mandatu i kojom biste ocenom od 1 do 5 ocenili rad šefa evropske diplomatije Žozefa Borelja i njegovog prvog saradnika za Balkan Miroslava Lajčaka?
No. Well, I mean, the problem is that I know it's not good to say this on TV, but I mean, our High Representative is not too much familiar with the situation on the Western Balkan. I think he came once to Kosovo, he came once to Belgrade. If you really want to deal with this region, you have to make an effort to come here more often, to be present. I mean, Mr. Lajčák, I think he did a lot, and you cannot blame him for not being active enough. But if you have a high representative who has, I would say, not the biggest interest in the region, it's sometimes also damaging our credibility in the European Union, that's for sure. So he comes from Spain. Of course, many people say he is biased. I don't know. I have not seen that he was unfair and he was biased towards Kosovo. But nevertheless, I mean, his quantity of visits do really not prove that there is a big interest in the region. Otherwise, I would say we need to be more strict on conditionality, on domestic reforms. That is true for each and every country. And we see quite a backsliding in democratic standards, not just in Serbia, but also in all the other countries. And even here, what I've heard from many interlocutors, people are not happy with the achievements of the government in many of the fields and many of the sectors. So I would say that the European Union should be much stricter on conditionality before they give money, should be much tougher, but not just on one country, but on all the governments and all the executive representatives.
Dobro, isto smo pitali i sad idemo do naših građana, gledalce, zapravo građane u Gračanici, Prištini i Severnoj Mitrovici. Ove godine održavaju se izbori za Evropski parlament. Da li su funkcioneri Evropske unije na čelu sa Boreljom i Lajčakom zaslužili pozitivnu ocenu za svoj rad na normalizaciji odnosa Prištine i Beograda? To smo ih pitali, pa da vidimo šta kažu.
Nažalost, ne zaslužuju. Jer, nažalost, 25 godina srpski narod živi pod nekom vrstom okupacije, teror, robovi, kao robovi, robovskim životom se živi, hapse se nevini Srbi, nema potpuni mir i sloboda, nema potpuni povratak proteranih. Nažalost, međunarodna zajednica samo jedno doživjela debakl.
Borelj i Lajčak, po meni, jednom običnom čovjeku, ne zaslužuju nikakav epitet. To su za mene dva čovjeka čije zemlje nisu priznale Kosovo, da oni mene ubeđuju da ja priznam Kosovo. Mislim, to je nelogično, zaista nelogično.
Mislim da su mogli mnogo bolje stvari da urade. Mogli su. Zbog situacije nisu to uradili, ali to ostavljam njima. Ipak nešto je krenulo.
Pa ne verujem. Nisu zaslužili, ništa nisu radili. Tako i sve ovi faktički 20 godina. Tako se vrti sve u jednom mjestu.
Šta su uradili? 10 godina Evropska unija nije uspjela da sa Albancima donese odluku o osnivanju zajednice srpskih opština. Pokazalo se da je Evropska unija nemoćna. Borelj i Lajčak, to su jedni ljudi bez nekog autoriteta pravog. Oni imaju taj institucionalan autoritet, međutim pravi u svetu, u narodu nemaju nikakav. Zato mi na Kosovu ispaštamo.
Oni se bore da jedni i drugi daju neke dobre rezultate, ali ja mislim da to još nije za dobru ocenu. Jer nema te dobre saradnje između Srbije i Kosova. Ja mislim, jeste, oni se bore, ali ni on ne razume ni jednu stranu ni drugu. Ovi teraju nešto što nije njihovo da bi bilo njihovo. Mi naravno svoje ne damo i nećemo nikada da damo i tu je neki taj problem koji nikad ne može da se reši.
Nikad. Pa nikad ništa nisu završili. Samo petljaju, zavađuju.
Neka mršava dvojka, ja bih rekao. Mislim da nisu zaslužili neku dobru ocenu, jer nisu u suštini uradili ništa dobro što bi koristilo nama, Srbima i ostalim manjinama na Kosovu.
Kakav njihov rad? Izvinite što moram tako da kažem, ali šta su oni uradili do sada? Ništa. Pa prema tome i bolje da odu.
Nisu uspešno radili ništa jer ovaj ne prihvata Vučić, ovaj naš lider Kurti, on slaže se sa njima, ali ne shvata to. Navodno da ne prizna Kosovu republiku.
Pa na osnovu svega do sad viđenog mislim da nisu.
Pa mislim da nisu na visini svog zadatka, da su svi pristrasni i da su robovi nekih nevidljivih ljudi koji jednostavno upravljaju sa celim svetom, ne samo sa nama, Srbijom, Kosovom i sve ostalo. Jer u interesu tih pojedinaca i velikih fabrikanata Kosovo je kolonija. Ne samo Kosovo, nego i Srbija i ceo Balkan.
Dobro, gospođo von Kramon, evo vidjeli smo i čuli šta kažu građani Srbi i Albanci u Prištini, Gračanici i Severnoj Mitrovici. Nisu baš ni oni zadovoljni rezultatima i radom gospodina Borelja i Lajčaka. Smatraju da su mogli više i bolje. Šta kažete na ovo?
But when you look at the comments and the statements in more detail, you see how contradictory they are. So obviously nobody is happy, but that also lies in the fact that it's very comfortable and very convenient for the leaders here, but also in the north, but also in Belgrade, to blame European Union for everything which does not work in your country. And I tell you, the same is true for Berlin. If our politicians don't get anything done, they blame Brussels for that. They blame the EU. And you can go around in all the capitals, and everything which does not work, the EU is blamed for that. So here I see a pattern. But absolutely right, it is for me very sad to see that people are frustrated, and also their perception of how they see the EU, that we have not achieved anything, which is not true. Many things could have been achieved. It could have been much more. I fully agree. We should not be satisfied. But this level of frustration, and that they are being seen as slaves and as a colony and whatsoever, I think this is another level we really should fight, and we really should come up with a positive approach, and we really should show the people that they are welcome, that they are being seen as full first-class citizens also in the European Union when the conditions are met by the government. But the problem is here that, of course, many of the politicians, when they cannot move forward, they say, well, this is the fault of the European Union. And people buy this. Citizens believe this is true. And that is not okay.
Jasno, ali ljudi na Zapadnom Balkanu i više očekuju od Evropske unije. Pomenuli ste malo pre Berlin. Ipak tu postoje razlike. Balkan bi bio i dalje bure baruta da nije tog uticaja Evropske unije, iako se u ovom dijalogu Brisel predstavlja kao običan posrednik, da tako kažem, ali svakako da bez njenog uticaja bi ovdje bilo i mnogo većih problema.
Absolutely, and what we have seen for the last 2 years, I would say there was actually so much in favor of the people in the governments of the Western Balkan. You say that the US, EU, and most of the capitals were on the same side. We were fighting for the same concepts, for the same ideas. We were really trying to bring new ideas into the region, making sure we are aligning with the needs here, economical needs, political needs. But in the end, if you do not see that the compromise is paying off on the account of the leaders here, and that they rather go for resistance and non-aligning with those principles, to compromise or to integrate, to give up on certain, I don't know, nationalistic ideas, then it is really hard for us in the European Union to pressure them. And I mean, from the comments you can see that you will never satisfy everyone. You will always have to disappoint people, but you have to explain why you do this. And maybe also here we lacked. I think we have not done enough in terms of communication. We have not come up with a lot of explanation in Serbian language, in Albanian language. We have to be much more active. Here, I think the criticism is absolutely right.
Jasno. Dobro, a kako ocenjujete svoj rad? Jel ste napravili neku, što bi se reklo, grešku? Šta je bilo za pamćenje? Jel ostalo nešto neurađeno? Šta bi savjetovali možda eventualno svom nasledniku?
I don't know. I mean, the work is not over. We still have 4 months to go, or 5 months to go. I hope that I was more or less fair. As I said at the beginning, I was not here to be a mouthpiece of any politician, of any individual party. I have no own interest in this region. For me, it is important to show that if somebody tells me something, I like to listen. I like to hear more. I like to get the information as comprehensive as possible. I am not blaming anyone for the past, but I'm blaming people who block the future. I'm blaming politicians who work on their own profile rather than on the interest of the country. And that is something very, very pity to see, that it is more in the interest of individual politicians to come forward with bigger majority in the next elections than to move forward with the entire country.
U nastavku, ko je Viola von Kramon? Viola von Kramon Taubadel, nemačka je političarka, članica je Saveza 90 zelenih, a od 2019. godine obavlja funkciju narodne poslanice Evropskog parlamenta. Između 2009. i 2013. predstavljala je Donju Saksoniju u Bundestagu. Također je izvestiteljka Evropskog parlamenta za Kosovo. Rođena je 23. marta 1970. godine u nemačkom gradu Halu. Udata je za Štefana von Kramona Taubadela, koji radi kao profesor agrarne politike na univerzitetu u Göttingenu. Imaju 4 dece. Sam propustio nešto bitno?
No, very much. It's all complete. Thank you.
Dobro. U ovom svom mandatu postali ste ekspert. Čini mi se za prilike na Kosovu, kao što ste rekli, vi često i dolazite i obilazite sve sredine. Bili ste i na severu i u srpskim sredinama i u albanskim. Je li vas Kosovo i ranije impresioniralo dok niste stupili na ovu funkciju ili...
To be honest, I was always interested in regions where it's not going so smoothly. So definitely conflict region is something which attracts me from my interest. But I have not been to the Balkan. I was in Bosnia several times. I was in North Macedonia. When I was member of the Bundestag, I was once in Belgrade for the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. But I have never been to Kosovo before I was appointed. And I was the chief observer in 2019, so that was my first occupation here in Pristina.
Da. Dobro, cilj svih zemalja, čini mi se, koje su podržale nezavisnost Kosova je da Kosovo bude multietničko, demokratsko društvo svih ravnopravnih građana. Sad je prošlo skoro 16 godina od kako je proglasilo nezavisnost Kosovo i da li je postalo Kosovo takvo društvo po vama?
Well, I mean, that is easier for you, actually, to reply or to respond to this question. For me, it is sometimes because I'm here for only 4.5 years. So my first visit came when there was already quite a transformation, when the next election took place. I have spoken with many people who have seen the entire development of this independence, or since the independence of Kosovo, and they are a little bit more worried than I am, because they see that the speeding up in segregation of the society, as I said before, people are not meeting anymore because they don't speak each other languages, and there's also no interest in meeting this society. There are not joined football clubs, so many as there have been in the past. There are no sports association where people do activities together, cultural events. It's more in a segregated communities. And so if you ask me, have this goal achieved, I would say we are rather moving away than moving or joined together. And that is not, at least in my interest, to watch this.
Da, nema, rekli ste čega sve nema ni Srba, odnosno sve ih je manje. Svakim danom nekad je bilo mnogo više, otišli su iz svojih gradova posle 99. oko 200.000, to su podaci UNHCR-a, Crvenog krsta, sad su raseljeni, sad je po nekim procenama ostalo manje od 100.000, međutim, prema podacima iz Beograda u poslednjih samo godinu dana sa severa Kosova je se iselilo oko 13% Srba. Hoće li po vama biti Srba i posle 10 godina ovde i od čega i od koga zapravo to zavisi?
Well, it depends on each of us. I mean, if we really would like to see Kosovo as a multi-ethnic society, multi-ethnic state, we need to make sure that these conditions which are needed for people to feel comfortable, to see that they have a perspective, that their kids, that their friends are being welcomed, a part, and ordinary citizens, we have to make sure that this is a condition. This is the condition for everything, how we organize our relation with Kosovo. But also, I would like to see that the influence coming from Belgrade should also be, I mean, treated very carefully. I mean, this heavily influenced, political influenced, and not always, I would say, integrational influence for the people in the north is also not helpful. So,
A zašto ljudi sa severa, 13% ja rekao da je otišlo, zašto po vama ljudi odlaze tamo i kako ocenjujete sada to stanje? Ljudi svakodnevno negoduju, prave se policijske baze, evo pre neki dan je pucala policija i jurila nekog dilera droge, čega li, pa su pucali po prozorima građana u sred Severne Mitrovice. Kako ocenjujete to stanje tamo i da li je normalno zapravo mesto za život?
No, absolutely. And here I fully agree. This militarization of the north with the special police, ordinary police, I don't know, this constantly checking and treating people like drug dealers, the ban of goods from Serbia, all this does not help to make people feel welcomed and to make people feel having a perspective at their home. So you're absolutely right. Here I fully agree. The measures coming from Pristina to control and to fight, I don't know, corruption or organized crime is much overdue. No, it's not overdue. It's much overdone, or it's exaggerating in a way which is for ordinary people, for ordinary citizens, almost threatening. And that is something I would say we need to lever. We need to make sure that the elections, the local elections, will enter into the next phase. I hope we see that mayors get elected who have the legitimacy, who feel responsible, and we need to see that all the, I would say, procedure for ordinary citizens are in place. I heard yesterday that if you want to meet somebody from your municipality, you go to the police station. The police station is empty because the police is in the municipal building. I mean, this is so crazy to understand what's going on in the north. That has nothing to do with rule of law and, let's say, local communities. And here I would absolutely agree. That is nothing what people like to see.
Da li je moguće da Evropska unija, recimo, na primjer, a da ne govorim i o drugim zemljama, ne znam, Sjedinjene Američke, nemaju snagu da celo to stanje spreče. Znamo da su Srbi tamo protestovali, imali barikade, ukazivali, napustili institucije, pa znamo da je i došlo do Banjske, gde je 4 ljudi su ubijeni. Sve to moglo da se spreči. Ko je tu zakazao?
Well, I mean, to be honest, things like Banska, it doesn't help. That is easily to be seen as a threat to Kosovo, and it is easily to be seen to legalize and to legitimize the measures coming from Pristina to the north. So things like also on Monday, the 29th of May, when you had this heavy attacks against the KFOR soldiers. I don't know whether these were all people from the north or whether they're also people from the Republic of Serbia, but nevertheless, these militant groups, these hooligans, do not help to portray that there are ordinary citizens protesting against this, I would say, unnecessary measures of the north. So here, that's what I said at the beginning, we need more political representation of really responsible politicians to make sure that the voices are being heard in the dialogue, but also here in Pristina. We need to have proper people who fight for the rights in the north, but not with weapons, not with sticks, not with this kind of equipment. And that is the problem here. I mean, if I defend the people in the north, which I do, I get offended and I get attacked by each and everyone in Pristina, because it is so easy to use Banska and to use the Monday heavily incidents against the KFOR soldier, that they can legitimize all the measures in the north. And here I think we have to come to a different way of how to say, organizing protest.
Da, jasno, eto kad pomenuli smo Banjsku, svu odgovornost za događaj u Banjskoj na sebe je preuzeo jedan čovek, bivši potpredsjednik Srpske liste Milan Radojičić. On je bio na čelu onih Srba, da parafraziram reči predsjednika Srbije Aleksandra Vučića, koji nisu hteli da trpe Kurtijev teror. Evropska unija je taj sukob u Banjskoj ocenila, čini mi se, kao terorizam. Ko su zapravo po vama teroristi? Maskirani, naoružani Srbi ili Kurti koji, kako kaže Vučić, teroriše Srbe tamo na severu? I hoće li neko i kako odgovarati za smrt 4 čoveka tamo sa tim, rekao bih, katastrofalnim i političkim i posljedicama među ljudima, među narodima zapravo?
Well, I mean, first of all, Radojic is still free. There's no prosecution against him. So also here, of course, if he is the head of this group leading this, I don't know, attacks against the state or against the Kosovo police, I think this should have legal consequences, and it would be extremely important to see that this prosecution goes on. But I have not heard, I have not seen anything. Maybe I missed it. But that would be important, I think, for this government, but also for us in the European Union, that we see, okay, there is an interest to fight organized crime, to fight this group, to fight the criminals, but that starts with the prosecution and process. When it comes to the rest, the investigation and how this is all, how this could develop, as I said before, I have not still the full picture of what was actually happening, who is behind that. I know we have to be much more pushy. We have to get the information from our institution, from the EU institution, from ULEX, from KFOR, from the intelligence here. And we definitely will push for this, but nevertheless, also from the Serbian side, especially Mr. Radojic is there now. We need to see the first steps coming from the judiciary system.
A ili očekujete da eventualno bude izručen Kosovu, ili je to nemoguća misija?
I don't know whether he will be extradited to Kosovo. I mean, you know the situation much better. I think it would be a good signal also to see that there is an interest from Belgrade to settle this case, to make sure that has legal and political consequences. If not, I hope that the European Union will be much tougher on Vučić here.
Dobro, na severu Kosova, u Severnoj Mitrovici, je pre 6 godina ubijen ispred svoje kancelarije i jedan od političkih lidera Srba, Oliver Ivanović. Još se ne zna koga je i zašto ubio. Znate vi možda?
No, I wish I would. I think he was a marvelous figure. He was very important for the mutual reconciliation, and is still a huge loss for everyone working here. And that is also something which, of course, discourage other people who have the same intention to bring people together, to be a more moderate force. If they see that if you really go as an independent politician, yeah, for the interest of the people, that might end in a death, and that might kill you. And so we have to make sure that the security of each and everyone is being provided. And no, I have no idea who killed him. Unfortunately, at that time, I have not been active here. So I'm afraid I can't help you.
Da, ali vodi se, podignuta je optužnica, vodi se proces protiv nekih ljudi. Jel verujete da kosovsko pravosuđe zapravo ima kapacitet da ovaj slučaj istera, što bi se reklo, do kraja i osudi, odnosno završi taj proces, uhvati krivca ili krivce?
To be honest, I have quite a deep trust in the Kosovo judiciary system. I think what I've seen, what I've heard is that they work very professional, that they are independent. And I don't know in this particular case, I don't know whether they have any interest here. I can't tell you anything. But in general, I think the lawyers, courts, judges, prosecutors, they still incorporate quite a lot of knowledge and competence.
Dobro, sada idemo ponovo do naših građana. Njih smo isto pitali, ni posle 6 godina od ubistva Olivera Ivanovića još se ne zna koga je i zašto ubio. Verujete li da će se ikad saznati? Pa da vidimo šta kažu.
Istina teško izlazi na videlo, ali možda kroz nekih 20-30 godina će se saznati, ali tada to već nikome neće biti interesantno.
Pa verovatno hoće, ali ne brzo.
To se zna i saznaće se, samo kad oni odlučuju da se zna, znaće se i šta
mislite, ko je po vašem mišljenju? Kažete to se zna.
To neću da kažem, vi znate i ja znam otprilike, ali neću da kažem.
Pa teško, za sada ništa.
Zašto?
Pa tako će i da ostane. Šta?
Zašto to mislite?
Pa zato, što je tako politika, šta?
Poverujem da nekada hoće da se saznam, ali kad dođe vreme za to.
Kako će se saznati?
Pa znate, jednostavno vreme dođe, sazri, da se neke stvari političke iznesu u javnost istinito. I ja verujem da će to doći vreme i da će doći taj dan i treba da se sazna koga je ubio.
Mislim da da. Mislim da će da saznati.
Kako? Kad?
Pa šta znam kad, ali treba da se zna. Zato što treba da se zna. Ne znam da ti kažem dobro srpski, ali mislim da treba da se zna.
A zbog čega do sada nije? Šta mislite?
Pa politika je. Politika je.
Pa ja mislim da pravda stiže, ali stiže kasno. I da će jednog dana sigurno da se sazna koga je ubio i zbog čega i šta su sve uradili.
Pa moje lično neko mišljenje je da ako budu institucije radile svoj posao, da će možda i doći do nekog pomaka. Međutim, ako se bude nastavilo ovim tempom, teško.
Neće.
Zašto?
Zato što ga je ubila vlada.
Koja? Čija?
A njegova vlada.
Živeo je na Kosovu. Na koju vladu misli?
Pa ono preko Kosova. On im je smetao. Ništa drugo.
To je sve u službi društva i države i ti ljudi se ne otkrivaju.
Verujem da će jednog dana da se sazna i verujem da će to da se vrlo brzo sazna. Makar se nadam da će tako da bude.
Kako?
Tako što će institucije početi da rade svoj posao, tako što će se, da kažemo, ogoliti te sve stvari koje su se dešavale svih prethodnih godina, da li možda čak postoji politička pozadina ili ne postoji. To sve moraju institucije da otkriju, to ne možemo mi obični građani.
Pa verovatno vlast treba da tam malo proširi tu proceduru i da zna, da nađe ubitu.
Dobro, evo vidjeli smo i čuli šta kažu građani, nisu baš optimisti da će se rešiti ovaj slučaj ubistva Olivera Ivanovića. Neki i očekuju, kažu pravda je možda spora, ali dostižna, da institucije treba i više da rade. Šta kažete na ovo što smo vidjeli čuli?
Well, I think this is really sad that the trust in the institution, in the judiciary is so low, and everyone says that has something to do with politics, and they're blaming again each other. So there's also not a clear line on who's behind that, but everyone thinks that the murder is known, but it's not being kept or is not being prosecuted for that. And that is really sad. As I said, I'm not too much involved into this case. I can't tell you at which stage this indictment is, but definitely for the people living here and feeling that something shady is going on in the background, that is really harmful, definitely.
Dobro, evo i bližimo se i kraju. Govorili smo o Srbima. Koje su po vama 3 glavna problema Srba na Kosovu? Vi često imate kontakte sa Srbima, razgovarate, dolazite često na Kosovo.
I would say, in general, people have the same problems and people have the same interest, be it Kosovo, Albanian, Serbian, Ashkali, Roma, and so on. Everyone would like to live in a better social environment, would like to have jobs which are well paid, would like to live in peace and stability. And you see that what we spoke about, the migration fact, is harming the region. It's not just for one region, it's not just for one country, but it's an overall phenomenon. And we in the European Union should act better in terms of explaining to the people why our politics is not for one leader, is not just for one party, but should really be seen as a beneficial measures to the people, and we have not managed to do so. I see that still people think that, yeah, we are not there, that we can explain why we do things, why this is applied to this and that country. And here, I would like to see us becoming better, more vocal, speaking more to the people, being more on the ground, being more active. And I also would like to see that the leaders in the region would take more responsibility for what they can do. They like to blame us for what they have not accomplished. But in the end, I think if we cannot work together and if we cannot share the success, people will leave. People will not live under the conditions some of them have to live now. And this is what I mainly regret. I would like to see people prospering here. I would like to see this region prospering. That is my main intention. And this, I think we have to become better.
Da, ljudi odlaze i Srbi zapravo odlaze. Pričali smo o tome. Može li po vama Kosovo da opstane kao nezavisna država bez Srba?
No.
Zašto?
No, I think this is not acceptable because when the international community supported people in Kosovo, it was clear that this state should be and should become and should stay a multi-ethnic state, a democratic multi-ethnic state, a diverse state. And that is in the constitution, and that is the agreement with the international community. So it is in our interest to keep this criteria in place. Here, I think we are sometimes also not strict enough.
Dobro, evo i na samom kraju, šta je nešto lepo što vas lično vezuje za Kosovo ili nešto novo što ste možda naučili ili videli ovde?
Well, definitely. I think that people are very good in very hospital. I really like to come all the time. People are friendly, are polite, I mean, most of the people really would like to see that we, from the European Union, I mean, see their achievements of what they have done for the last years as a positive contribution to the European Union and not as a threat. So many people in, I don't know, in France and other countries say, well, this is organized crime, this is corruption. But come on, this is not the case. People like you, like many others, we are Europeans. And this I learned here in Kosovo. Kosovo is Europe, and you belong to not just the European continent, but also to the European Union.
Gospođo von Kramon, hvala puno što ste bili gošća emisije Slobodno Srpski.
Thanks a lot for having me once again.
Gledali ste i slušali Slobodno Srpski. Budite sa nama i sledeće nedelje na vašoj omiljenoj televiziji Slobodno Srpski ili kako god želite, pišite na e-mail adresu slobodnosrpski@gmail.com ili pošaljite pismo na Medija centar Čaglavica za emisiju Slobodno Srpski. Prijetno!